So today we're going to discuss the Cartesian point system and graphing. So the Cartesian system was made by a man named Descartes, that's why we call it that, but it's a way of visualizing numbers on a planar system. And that was really bad, so I'm going to draw that again. But it's a way of visualizing numbers as a system of equations. All right. These lines I'm drawing here are number lines. They each stand for one number. They help us keep track of where stuff is and create a grid system for us. If I could overlay a grid on this, I would. It's just not possible. But it creates a grid. So we're going to call this one 5, this one negative 5, this one negative 5, this one 5, and this one 5. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how this works. This horizontal line right here is called the x-axis. This vertical line is called the y-axis. When we're given a point, they're given in this form. It gives us the x-coordinate first, then the y-coordinate. All points will show that way. It'll tell you how to graph something. There's arrows because these graphs continue infinite on forever. The way the system works is it surrounds what's called down here in the center as the origin. So this right here in the center is called the origin. And the points for the origin are 0, 0. That's how we get everything else. Everything else expands off of that. Now that we know that, let's kind of talk about points. So points in this quadrant, we'll call this quadrant 1, will be positive and positive. That's because this y top here is positive. Anything on this side of the x-axis is positive. Anything on this side of the x-axis is negative. So negative, positive, and negative. Same thing goes for the x. Anything on this side of the y-axis is positive. Anything on this side of the x-axis or the y-axis is negative. So we keep that in mind as we go around. Quadrant 2, negative, positive. Quadrant 3, negative, negative. Quadrant 4, is a positive negative. So that'll help you to determine where points are. Say we had the point negative 2, 3. So first I would look at the signs and I would say this is a negative, positive. So I'd look for, okay, so we've got a negative, positive, okay. What I'd also think is the x is negative, so we're going to go left, 1, 2. So we know that my x value is going to be on this line somewhere. And then right here. And then we go up 3, 1, 2, 3. So up 3 over 2. Right there. Now if we had a point that was negative 3, negative 3, we would go down 3, or over left 3, then down 3. So negative x's, I'm going to write this down. Negative x moves left, negative y moves down, positive x moves right, positive y moves up. All right, so that's going to be an important distinction to keep in mind, that that's what the numbers do. When you see a negative or a positive in this section here, because these can be negative or positive, depending on where you see it is where it ends up. What if we had one that was like this, 0, 3? My x is 0, which means that it's going to be somewhere along this line. Along the y-axis is when x is 0. So our point is going to end up right here for 0, 3. So for 0, 3, we see that happen. Let's change the color. So there's our point for 0, 3. Now, if we wanted a point that was at 3, 0, that changes things. The x is positive, that means move right, and the y's don't move at all, so 0. But if we had one that was 3, 3, where both are positive, and you'll know it's a point because it'll be separated by a comma with parentheses around it. The number will always be separated by a comma. We get a point that's right there. If we get a point that's like halfway in between, we go halfway between 0 and 1, and then go up 3. And it looks messy on my graph, but that's how it works. So Cartesian systems are used to view things graphically. It's what we use for anything that we're wanting to view. Now these numbers, these lines don't have to necessarily be 1. They can be anything. I could have done them as 50s. Or I could have done them as 10s. We see this all the time in graphs. We'll have a graph. I'm going to erase this. You guys can go back and pick up that information if you need it. Say we had a graph that looked like this. Oh, gotta wait for a second. Oh, it cleans up. There we go. We were gonna make a line like this and like this. When we wanted to graph, say, number of years and then how much something happened, we would make lines here. And then we would make lines here. And it's important to keep in mind that this is still our x and our y. So when we make a point, it's still going to be an xy form. That's how all our points are going to be. Let's name this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, so on, so on, so on, to 8, or 9. Yeah, 9. And then this one we're going to name 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. So your number lines don't have to use the same system to measure them out, but whatever system you use, it should be repeated. If I'm going to go up by 2s, I can't say this is going to be 2, 3, and then I'm going to go up by 2s. It doesn't work that way. We have to pick one system and move up that way. Like this one moves up by 1s, this one moves up by hundreds. I can't say I want to go from 1 to 200, then 2 to 300, then 300 to 600 right here. It doesn't work that way. Whatever system you use to measure it, you have to use that same system throughout. So let's say we had a point on this graph that we're working with that was at, say the point was at 3, 400. Say in year 3, we made $400. So we're going to call this one years. And this one dollars. And that's a small amount of dollars, but we'll just call it dollars for now. So in year 3 we made 400. Let's say in year 2 we made through 250. In year 1 we made 500. Year 4 we made 100. In year 5 we only made 50. So this shows us, graphs can show us trends. We use graphs to show us trends where numbers are going. We also use graphs to show how something is either improving, like say year 8 we made $500 again. Somewhere between year 6 we made 300, and 7 we made 400, 9 we made 450, and 8 we made 500, so we climbed back up again. So this is a way of describing, graphs are a way of describing data in a visual manner so we can see trends. In this data we can see that it started high and for some reason went really low and then went really high again. We don't know all the reasons why because we don't know the full situation compared to this data, but we can tell some things. We can tell that we made more in year 3 than we did in year 2, and it's an outlier because it doesn't follow the curve. Year 8 returned back to the year 1. But this year 5 we made no money. 4 we made some money, but we were starting to lose a lot. So graphs can help us to understand what's going on with our numbers, and that's why we have them. We have them to describe these things which are hard to look at numbers-wise. It helps us describe large amounts of data in a visual way, and we as humans are very visual. And so you guys will be learning about graphs here in this next section, so I'm making some videos on those. This is the first one. It's called Cartesian point system, and that's what we talked about, the Cartesian point system. And this that we did here is also considered a Cartesian point system. It's x to y and graphed this way. All right.